This neighborhood's always been like a working class neighborhood, and it's really been a place where a lot of different immigrant groups come and have their first, experience in the city. So it's I don't think that the neighborhood really has been detrimental, and certainly there's a lot of good things in this neighborhood, and the people that live here would argue with you and say it's not that challenged. I think it proves that that you can have something. I mean, there's a lot of models in other cities too, where there's neighborhoods that some people might not consider the best in the world, but they still have attractions that people come to. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just that the market itself is a draw, and it's been here so many years in this neighborhood that people are used to coming here, and they feel secure coming here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think it's good. It's a good thing for folks to realize that most of the city and most urban environments aren't threatening. I always tell people, if you come to any neighborhood looking for trouble and you're going to find it. But if you're there doing legitimate business, the people that are not doing legitimate business, you're the last person they want to bother, because they don't want to bring any attention to themselves. And really, this neighborhood has come is a lot more stable now probably than it was 15 or 20 years ago. The city's done some things to really try to get more owner-occupied homes and really help work on some of the rental properties in the area. And again, we want to have that mix there, because we don't want to have the neighborhood become gentrified and drive out all the people that have lived here for years, and because the rates go up too high. So right now there's, I think there's a nice mix of people in the neighborhood.
So do you think the market's success kind of feeds into the success of the local surrounding area? Do you think it's really only attracting people from kind of the suburb area?
No, the market, we've done a lot of survey work and other stuff, and 05, 09, 21 zip codes, which are right around the market, is still 35 to 40% of the customers come from those neighborhoods. And we're the largest singles market site, EBT, for electronic benefits transfer for food stamps in the United States. So we do more food stamp business in this market than the whole green market system of 31 markets in New York City does combined. So it's
amazing. It's
amazing, and it shows that we're serving a need in the community. And but at the same time, you can go over to. I always say, on a good day in the summer, you can have 45,000 people here, and it's, to the mix of people and how well they get along here, because we hardly ever have problems between customers. It's usually, if there's problems, it's vendor to vendor fighting with each other. They've been next to each other too long or whatever. But you can go to the fish vendor, and you'll have people buying the dollar sunfish and $1 a pound sunfish right next to somebody buying lobster and tuna and everything else. So and both folks, are getting along, and it's amazing how the market's
brings people together.
Brings people together.
Yeah. And then, do you think that in terms of the economy of the entire Rochester area, do you feel like the market success, its economic success, is stable throughout? Kind of economic swings within the Rochester area itself, so in a lower kind of economic time period, do more people come to the market, or does the market success drop a little bit, or?
Well, no, I don't think, because people have to eat, whether it's good times or bad. So you might change the mix of product here somewhat, depending on. That certain vendors might do better that have more lower cost items in bad times than in good times. Right. But Rochester's got a very resilient economy. I mean, there's not many cities that could go through the loss of Kodak and Xerox and Bausch and Lomb, the number of jobs that they lost, and still have a stable and actually growing economy till the last 2 months. We were the #1 job producer outside of New York City and New York State, until just the last couple of months when. Right. But and the market's had that resiliency. In bad times, people will come here because it's a little lower price point. And in good times, they'll come here looking for some of the new vendors that are carrying, higher priced local, organic, whatever produce. And
absolutely.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think? Yeah, this all set up. What do you think the future holds for the public market? How do you think it's going to do with the renovations, and do you think it's going to continue to be so successful? Or
yeah, I mean, we have actually, part of the whole renovation plan was kind of doing a master plan for the whole market district. And we identified a couple more areas where we could develop new storefront and living spaces, some on Trinidad Street across the street from the market. I mean, we're hoping that with this, if we get a good response to our proposals for the storefront building with 7 or 8 more storefronts, and with the storefronts and the restaurant cure that's over here in this, in the existing storefronts, the idea is to get enough freestanding businesses here so that even on non-market days there'd be traffic here in the market and in the neighborhood, and there'd be enough reasons for people to come. I mean, if you had a butcher and they're dealing with a wine guy that wants to make wine and then sell it in the front and stuff, you'd have enough reasons to come here on non-market days, and then eventually some of the vendors I'm sure would start opening up. When we do the new winter shed, we're talking about being open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
that's awesome.
In 10 till 6 or 7 or something like that. And we've actually interviewed and talked individually to all the vendors in there, and they're all, would buy into that as long as there's going to be business here and stuff. Because right now, if you come on a Tuesday or Thursday, there's hardly any vendors inside, and it kind of looks sad because, there's one vendor here and one vendor there. And really, to make a market hall successful like that, you got to have all the vendors in there, at least most of them, because so, the city's invested money in the surrounding neighborhood. Actually, they're going to redo Union Street this year, repave it, and add some new gateway features down at Central Park and Union, so that it'll draw, give you the feeling then that, again, that you're moving into a district that's special. And
so it feels like the city is really backing you guys up with the expansion.
The market's been, it's been on this site since 1905, but there's been a market in Rochester since 1827 continuously operating. So it's, it's certainly, as many cities lost their markets, and now they're all striving to come back and rebuild and do markets. And, it's tough to establish something like this. And the other thing is this market has kind of grown, even though we planned it, it's kind of organic, the whole development of it too. So, and we try to be as much as we can, let it be kind of market driven. People are in and out, and different businesses survive and some don't survive. And some markets are very prescriptive on their vendor mix and things. And if you have a small market, I guess you have to be. But with the number of vendors we have, it's just, we have categories. It's always farmers first, and then other food, and then arts and crafts, and then general merchandise, so that we kind of control the vendor mix, but not too, prescriptively. Like I said, you want to kind of let it be organic and develop on its own.
So, shifting gears to focus on the vendors, how do you guys go through the process of actually selecting who qualifies as a vendor and how they actually get their position?
Well, like I said, it's the categories are farmers first, then in other food people, it could either be produce wholesalers, bakeries, cheese, whatever, meats, fish, and then arts and crafts, and then general merchandise, and then prepared foods. Actually, we have the 4 kiosks, and then we have a couple others, but we won't take any prepared food for regular market days. Like if somebody wants to serve hamburgers, hot dogs, sausage, or standard breakfast items, we won't take any more. It's got to be a specialty item, something that we don't have here, because you could fill the whole market with prepared foods, and then you wouldn't have a market. But then it's the way we do it. We actually have an accounting system downstairs, and we go back if somebody asks for if a booth becomes available, or if it becomes available for a lease. Cindy, who is our market supervisor, can look back on the accounting system, and she'll look first for the farmer that has been participating the longest as a daily vendor, because there's quite a few of the vendors who don't have leases, but they call in and they get spots on a daily basis that are open. And so she'll look back on that list and then call the one that's been participating the longest. We used to try to do a waiting list, but it turned into a mess because you get all these hundreds of. So this way now we go back and then call in. If they're not interested, then we'll call the next one that was on there. Generally, for the last 10 years, anybody we placed under the sheds or in the winter, under the sheds outside, has been a farmer, because we'll never get down to the other categories. So that's why you see like the general merchandise around the office and in other places and kind of non-traditional spots. which is a good thing. I mean, there's actually been an increase in the number of farms in Monroe County in the last farm census, which is the first time in about 100 years that there's been an increase. And a part of that, I mean, it's not just this market, but there's 22 or 23 other farmers markets in Monroe County alone in the summer, so it gives, you know, a lot of retail opportunities for the farmers where they can get a better return on their product than they can, you know, wholesale on it. So anyhow, I forgot what the question was.
No, absolutely. So do the vendors, you know, are their products kind of reviewed, and then do they have to go through an application process?
No, I mean, it's, if they're farmer, I mean, we're not, like I said, a lot of the smaller farmers markets, we're not producer only, we're a public market, so it's not, you know, we're not, but we do, like I said, give farmers first choice to the spots. We've done sometimes farm visits just to make sure they're really farmers, but for the most part we know already because they've been participating already, and really just from the product they bring, you can tell. A lot of the farmers, because even our farmers, since we're open year round, a lot of them sell other product along with their own product in the wintertime, which, you know, it's, some people would say isn't, the purists wouldn't like, but, you know, to us it keeps a good mix of product, and plus it's going back to the farmers and keeping them in their land, you know, whether they're selling somebody else's product, even if they're selling oranges in the wintertime.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the only other thing I have is, you know, if you had to change one thing about the market, what would it be?
What would it be?
Yeah.
I have one final question too, but I'll let you answer it first.
Well, I mean, the one thing that we are going to change is, you know, bringing the winter shed and the inside spaces up so they meet all the codes and we have a good, you know, everything that we need for there. I don't know. You know, some people would say, well, you want more parking, and you know, you could. I always say the people that complain about the parking probably wouldn't come to the market anyhow. You know, I mean, and we've added, between what we've added and what's been added privately, we've added almost 1,000 spaces in the neighborhood. And you come to a point where, you know, what are you going to do, tear the whole neighborhood down and have parking? You know, I wish more people are riding their bike. We're adding a bike shelter this spring. We're going to have a regular bike shelter here, and you know, so we'll see. I mean, I think parking will evolve on its own, so I wouldn't say that. I didn't really answer your question.
No.
But.
And then my final question just would be, what do you think is the strength and like the driving force of the market? If you could sum it up.
Well, I think it's as much, like I said before, the experience of coming here, and we've done survey work in other markets too, across the country, where people usually, you know, right up with buying local and fresh product and all that, is experience is just as important, and that's why people come to the market. So, you know, I think those two things are, as long as, you know, it's tough to explain sometimes. I mean, there's just something about the vibe down here that's kind of different than other parts of the city, and there's an energy and a vitality, and it really is just, I think, the mix of people and the different cultures and everything just makes it a spot, like, you know, that's very special in this part of Western New York, that's for sure. There's nothing, you know, comparable between, I used to say between New York and Chicago, but then Chicago's not that diverse, so you gotta go to the West Coast.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's always good.